It's starting to look a lot like 2008 all over again, but this time it's moving faster and it's cutting deeper. See, layoffs are exploding. Just in October alone, the U.S. companies slashed over 153,000 jobs. So that's 175% higher than this time last year. And it's not just tech anymore, it's restaurants, retail, and white-collar roles. But here's the part no one's saying. This isn't a correction, it's a collapse in slow motion. And that, my friends, is worth talking about. All right, so I want to take a minute, share some thoughts in reference to the current labor market debacle that I think was really highlighted this past week with all the figures that came out and how it's getting harder to keep the narrative in check when it's becoming obvious that Main Street isn't doing too well right now. So in this video here, I'm going to break down a couple things worth paying attention to further highlight the truth that the mainstream narrative wouldn't dare tell the people, because it would expose the idea that this current administration isn't really doing anything much different than the previous administrations at the end of the day. So as always, if you guys want more of these little quick takes, definitely hit that thumbs up button to show your support for the channel. If any thoughts or ideas are triggered as a result of the information that's provided, drop a comment down below. Definitely would love to get your take on things. And if all this is new, definitely subscribe so that you'll never miss an update when I put one out. But let's just walk through what has just happened. So the latest report from Challenger, Gray, and Christmas dropped this past week. The people who actually track the job cuts across America, and what they found is pretty alarming. Job cuts are up at about 183% from just last month alone, what's considered the highest layoff numbers for that month since 2003. Through the first 10 months of this year, we've already seen 1.1 million job cuts. That's 65% more than the same period last year. And we haven't even hit the holidays yet. So ultimately what this means is if you're still working, don't take it for granted, because the storm is rolling in and the music's potentially going to stop sometime soon. So the number one question you might be asking is, what's driving all this? And there's many factors, but in this video here, I'm going to just focus on three primarily that I think could be helpful. And while it's not AI altogether, it's clearly a part of the equation, because the AI revolution is already here. And you know there's been lots of promises of AI creating all types of new jobs. Well, guess what? The tech sector is leading a change in layoffs because of AI. So you got companies structuring, automating, and streamlining entire teams out of existence. So last month alone, tech firms announced over 33,000 cuts, 6 times more than a month before. So this isn't the future theory, it's present reality. And AI doesn't just take factory jobs, it's coming for analytics, marketers, project managers, even junior legal roles. So eventually, it'll be cheaper and faster to let algorithms do everything from customer service to logistics to product design, pick your industry. And when that happens, it'll be very probable that humans will become the inefficient ones. And of course, the second thing we're considering is the fact that the consumer overall is tapped out. So forget about what Wall Street says or what Scott Bessent is preaching when he goes on Fox News. On Main Street, people are barely holding on. Household debt just hit 18.6 trillion, which is a new all-time high. Credit card delinquencies are now the highest since 2011. Young Americans are defaulting on loans at the fastest rate in over a decade. And then here's the kicker. While the top 20% of earners are still spending like nothing's wrong, the other 80% have pulled back substantially. Before the pandemic, they made up about 42% of U.S. consumer spending. As of today, it's just 37%. So that 5% drop off there is not just a coincidence. It's a clear indicator that something's wrong. So that's just not a dip. That's an entire engine of the economy that's starting to sputter out of control. And then the last thing worth highlighting is the safety nets that people relied upon are breaking. And so as layoffs and debt weren't enough, the government shutdown is making things even worse. So you got food stamps are at risk, child care programs are in limbo, and health insurance premiums are spiking. And in places like Rhode Island, according to a recent report that I read, workers are showing up in person to beg for help. So in this article, one woman told a caseworker she might have to go back to eating cat food. And so when you hear narratives like that, that just lets you know that not everybody has it bad, but there are some out there that are struggling big time. And so this is what a collapse looks like. Not all at once, but piece by piece. You hear story by story of people actually having to do things that would be considered unthinkable if the economy was so great. And so first is jobs, then second is debt, and then you got social systems that are starting to decay. So where does all this go from here is the last question worth putting out there. And so let's be honest, most people aren't ready. According to new surveys that's been put out there, you got 63% of young adults have considered leaving the country. You got half of all adults report signs of loneliness. And then you got 75% says that they're more stressed about America's future than ever before. And then you got the AI anxiety, which is a new term that's popped up. It's doubled in just 1 year. So people feel it in their guts that something fundamentally is breaking. And it's not just the job market, not just the economy, but trust, stability, and identity itself. And it's all happening at the wrong time. And so if you're watching this, here's a takeaway. Don't wait for the headlines to tell you that you're in a crisis, because it's a crisis that's already unfolding right before our very eyes. And so the sooner you act, the better the chance you have at staying ahead of it. So that doesn't mean panic. It just means to come up with a strategy. So you have to tighten your spending, build skills that complement with AI, not compete against it, because there's no such thing. Get real about where the economy is heading, not where you hope it's going to be, because hope in a failing system is not a good hedge. And so the system is clearly breaking, but if you understand the patterns, you can survive the fallout. And so the Great Recession caught people off guard. So this time we won't have the same excuse. And so the red flags are everywhere, obviously. You just have to be willing to look. And of course, the whole point in actually bringing this to your attention is to further highlight the importance of thinking outside the box. Because there's no one in DC or no one, even at the state level, that's going to give you the truth right now. Everything is designed to keep the masses distracted, because ultimately it buys time for those that are trying to orchestrate this reset, and also provides cover for the excuse that they're going to use after something is triggered, whether it be the banking event, the government issues, whether it be a geopolitical event, whether it be an internal conflict within our country due to the religious tensions that are picking up. There's going to be some type of excuse coming sooner than later. And whatever it is going to be used as the cover for the response that they already have in play. And of course, I've talked about it more than enough, and I'm not going to go in depth about it now. But it ultimately boils down to distractions, division, and diversion tactics. What I consider to be 3 Ds in the framework of deception, because that's how the system operates. And so I'll say all that just to remind you that regardless of how your situation is turning out, whether you're in great shape or you're barely struggling, in the midst of all that, there's opportunities. And so that's where you get what you focus on. So take time to spend more time in prayer so you can develop strategies for preparation, because now is the best time to get in line with some form of purpose, which will allow you to separate yourself from the masses. And so that's all I have for today. As always, if you find value in anything I said today, hit that thumbs up, drop a comment down below. Curious to hear what you guys think. And if all this is new, make sure you subscribe, take this, share it so more people can get an alternative perspective as to what's going on here. And also, don't want to leave you all this information without pointing to some resources that you can find down in the description. Other than that, enjoy your day.